itself. Until every woman is free from violence, none of us are truly free. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a la señora Presidenta Vjosa Osmani.
Good afternoon. Buenos dias. Dear Madam Vice President, dear Minister of Foreign Affairs, ministers, excellencies, ambassadors, most importantly, dear survivors, activists, members of civil society, ladies and gentlemen. Being here today is not only a testament to the value and the importance that Kosovo places on the fight against all forms of violence, but especially to the mission and cause of preventing sexual violence during the war. Kosovo and Colombia may be oceans apart, but we are bound by a shared, painful past, a commitment to stand up for justice, and today we stand united in our efforts to promote the Women, Peace and Security agenda, an agenda we see as a centerpiece for lasting and sustainable peace and security worldwide. Yet the primary reason I stand before you today are the two Iron Ladies seated among you, Vasia and Shurete, two of the 20,000 survivors of sexual violence from the last war in Kosovo. Their stories, their pain, their struggle, but most importantly, their courage and resilience need to be known to all. While no speech can truly do justice to their lifetime of suffering, I am confident that our presence here today, our presence together, is what keeps them going in their fight for justice. They do not need our pity. They need us to amplify their voices, to find ears that will listen, to demand accountability and justice, and to provide platforms for their stories to be heard. Just like the decades-long conflict in Colombia, the last war in Kosovo, although entirely different, but it was a war with deep scars, particularly on our most vulnerable. Sexual violence was used as a weapon of war by the Milosevic regime, inflicting untold suffering on survivors and our society at large. I truly believe that acknowledging this painful history is the very first step towards healing and prevention. It has been told many times, sexual violence in conflict is one of the most horrendous crimes known to humankind. It goes beyond the physical harm. It shatters not just individuals, but entire families, communities, and societies. It is a weapon of war that is intentionally designed to inflict intergenerational harm. Addressing this is not just essential for the dignity of survivors, but for the very integrity of our shared humanity. That is why I commend Colombia for placing a spotlight on the need to center survivors in our efforts for restorative justice and peace building. In all honesty, we cannot speak of solutions without first listening to those who have been most affected. Survivors have been those most affected, especially women, and they must be at the heart of decision-making, policy development, and interventions. Their resilience and wisdom are vital to creating solutions that are not only effective, but also culturally relevant, timely, and sustainable. The choice to use sexual violence as a weapon of war is a deliberate one. The intent is to break the spirit of a nation. While Milosevic's regime brutally targeted our women, girls, and even men, The war criminals were not prepared to face the unyielding determination, the indomitable spirit, and the resilient people of Kosovo. A people who would never break. A people who would rise from the ashes of war to become a source of empowerment, solidarity, and support not for one another within our country, but also for others in need everywhere in the world. For a long time, survivors at home too lived in silence, burdened by stigma and overlooked by the system that was meant to protect them. But silence cannot deliver justice. It was then that we understood that the fight for survivors' rights must be at the heart of our collective healing. We have ingrained this agenda into the very fabric of our work, not just the Office of the President, but other institutions as well, ensuring that survivors' voices are heard, valued, and empowered. At its core, the approach is rooted in a philosophy where survivors are not seen as passive recipients of support, but as agents of change, architects of justice, and leaders in peace building, just like the women of Colombia have shown. Their stories, though born through unimaginable pain, should inspire us not to pity, but to act. That is why, as of April 14th, 2022, following the initiative of champions such as Ferida Rushiti, who is also with us here today, we decided to proclaim April 14th as the National Day for Survivors of Sexual Violence during the last war in Kosovo. This day is now permanently etched in our collective memory as a day to honor survivors and pledge to stand with them every step of the way. April 14th is not just another date. On that day in 1999, Vasia Krasniqi, who has joined us today, then only 16 years old, a child, was ripped from the arms of her mother from Milosevic's forces. They took her to a place that would mark the darkest moments of her life. For hours, she was held at gunpoint and repeatedly raped. Vasia chose to speak up over choosing silence. She spoke for justice, against stigma, and in doing so, she rallied an entire nation around her. Today, she is the voice of thousands of survivors of wartime sexual violence. Now, over 4 years in my presidency, there are certainly moments we reflect on with pride. But I am particularly proud of two decisions. First, the decision to appoint Vasia as my special envoy for survivors of sexual violence. And second, to appoint Shureta Tahiri, another fierce, unbreakable, and extraordinary champion, a survivor herself, as my special envoy for transitional justice. Their stories, their journeys, and their eyes, which carry the pain of the past, mixed with the unwavering determination to build a better future, are an example that we want the world to see, to hear, but most importantly, to remember. For through their experiences, we understood that sexual violence in war is not an abstract concept found in textbooks. It is a horrific war crime that shakes the very foundation of our societies. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight to prevent sexual violence in conflict is not only Kosovo's or Colombia's responsibility. It must be a global one. Our history, the lessons we've learned, the practices we've developed, and the policies we've shaped must serve the world. Our story can empower those in need today. Our milestones can lift others up. Our solidarity can save lives. Survivors are not asking for our sympathy. They are reminding us that justice is not a gift. It is a basic right. Therefore, our support for survivors must go beyond just providing justice. It must encompass comprehensive care, from medical treatment to psychological support to reintegration and empowerment within our societies. This is no longer just a policy agenda or a security issue. It is a uniting cause that brings us together as we fight for equality, agency, and representation for women and girls, both at home and abroad. This is why the prevention of sexual violence in war will remain one of the key missions of the Regional Center of Excellence on Women, Peace and Security in Kosovo. And I am confident that it will be a cause that will bring the center in Kosovo and the center in Colombia even closer together. The road ahead will not be easy, but together, with survivors leading the way, we can transform pain into purpose and build a future defined by justice, dignity, and peace. As I conclude on this anniversary of the peace agreement on Colombia, in this very historic building, let us also take a moment to honor the courage and determination of all those who truly believed in peace, even after decades of conflict, to the ones who paved the way for this nation to heal and to rebuild. Ultimately, this gathering today is meaningful in so many ways, but especially because it brings us together on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. So before I conclude, let us be reminded that the fight to eliminate violence against women is not just a fight for women. It is a fight for everyone. It is a fight for families. It is a fight for thriving societies. It is a fight for the future of justice